Welcome to another edition of This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. I'm Christopher Holder. On this week's presentation, we bring you highlights of Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa's engagement for the week ending July 23. This past week can best be described as one with many important interventions, both at the grassroots level and also at the National Assembly, where he addressed the House on issues critical to the continued development of the agriculture sector. We will bring you highlights of his address in Parliament, as well as clips of addresses to other engagements this past week. But first, these messages.
The Ministry of Agriculture advises that persons desirous of importing animal products, such as meats, must first acquire a permit and/or no objection to do so from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority (GLDA). Prospective importers must fill out an application for import license form. This must be handed in to GLDA along with a quotation from the supplier of the products to be imported, as well as a certificate of origin of the commodity. Meat and meat products must be from approved countries, and in cases where this is not so, then that country must apply directly to the GLDA for a permission to export to Guyana. In this case, a risk assessment is then conducted by the GLDA in association with the Veterinary Public Health Unit of the Ministry of Health. At the time of the application to GLDA, the importer must also indicate his or her interest in this regard to the Veterinary Public Health Unit, which plays a critical role in determining whether the license to import will be granted or not. If the import is allowed, the importer is notified by the GLDA. A fee is payable before the permit is prepared and issued to the importer. It should be noted that meat or meat products imported without an import license will be seized and destroyed. For more information on this and other issues, contact the GLDA head office on 220-6556 or email glda1910@gmail.com. Visit our Facebook page and leave a comment.
Region 5, West Berbice, is the largest single contributor to Guyana's rice production annually, with some 45% of national production. Region 5 is also the largest contributor of beef and other meats from animals reared on lands in that region. All lands in Region 5 fall under the purview of the Mahicum-Bicony-Abari Agricultural Development Authority, MMA-ADA, an agency of the Ministry of Agriculture. In recognition of the importance of its role in the production levels of the region, the Ministry of Agriculture has been expending millions on not only rehabilitating the neglected D&I structures and dams, but has been retooling the entity with millions in excavators and other equipment and tools for the work ahead. The completion of Phase 2 begins this year and has been catered for in the 2021 national budget. Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa says the MMA is key to doubling rice production in 5 years. The future for agriculture in Guyana is exciting. Let's all play our part. A message from the MMA Ministry of Agriculture. Farmers and the members of the public in general are being advised that tampering with drainage and irrigation structures in any way is prohibited under the Drainage and Irrigation Act. So too are practices that result in damage to access dams, such as using an inadequate length of tube to irrigate farmlands, resulting in erosion of the earthen dams. Also contrary to the Drainage and Irrigation Act is the practice of erecting structures or planting on government reserves. This will not be condoned. These reserves are to be clear at all times to provide access for the excavation of the channels. Livestock farmers should also be aware that they are liable for any damages caused by their cattle or swine to dams or reserves alongside D&I channels, as is the case when the animals cross these channels. Individuals wishing to erect bridges across D&I structures should first contact the NDIA before doing so. Those found guilty under the Act are liable to fines and imprisonment for up to 3 months. A message from the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, Ministry of Agriculture.
The week began with news that the Guyana Marketing Corporation would be spearheading the sale of packaged sugar across the country to counter price gouging on the part of unscrupulous retailers of the basic commodity. This announcement followed assurances from government that there was no shortage of sugar and that enough supplies were on hand to supply the local demand. Ifluct Estate was tasked with ramping up its production of packaged sugar, which was what was in short supply. A pound of sugar was retailing at most outlets at up to $300 a pound, which Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa had described as unconscionable on the part of those engaged in this blatant price gouging. The new GMC was later selling packaged sugar across the country at $150 a pound retail and $140 wholesale. This will continue until the price per pound of sugar is once again stable. Residents of Mauca Arcadia hosted Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa and his colleague Minister, the Honorable Sonia Park, to address issues affecting their community. This meeting comes on the heels of similar meetings held earlier this year and sought to expand on earlier interventions, speaking to the issues of drainage and irrigation bottlenecks in the community and the requests by residents for technical and other assistance in the furtherance of agriculture development in their community. Minister Mustafa stressed that these interventions must take place, as it is only through these that the efforts of residents in the communities across the country can realize the wealth-generating potential of agriculture in all its forms. Minister Mustafa emphasized the importance government is placing on agriculture and its development on the whole, noting that it is only through the efforts of the nation's farmers that this development will be realized.
So every single day, we are looking at doing new things. Whatever we used to do, the traditional crops, things like fruits and vegetables, we want to consolidate that and expand it. How we can do that? We have to make the service available, put in the necessary infrastructure. That is why we are here this afternoon, because we know many farmers or many persons living in Mauca depend on agriculture. But you can't, because with climate change taking place now, many times people's farms are flooded out. Many times people lost crop. That is why last year we had one of the worst floods in the history of our country, where all the regions in our country were flooded out. We had to allocate funds to give the farmers to go back to the land. I think 163 persons in Mauca received flood assistance from the government last year when we shared out the flood relief. But as a government, we recognize also the plight of the farmers.
The Agriculture Minister noted that while Guyana is looking forward to the inflows of revenue from the oil and gas sector, it will never lose sight of the importance of agriculture as an economic pillar that will outlast oil and gas.
Today we are seeing a renewed interest in agriculture. Although many persons are talking about the oil and gas sector, and we depend on the oil and gas sector for a large influx of revenue, we recognize the importance of the agriculture sector as one of the most important sectors in our country. We can't drink the oil and gas, but food we have to produce. Agriculture was responsible for every one of us to be in this part of the world. Or some of us would have remained in Africa and India, because our foreparents came from those countries to do agriculture in this part. Some came as slaves, some came as indentured laborer, and that is why we are in this part of the world. So from the inception, agriculture was responsible for all of us to be in this part here. That was the first economic activity for us. When we had the abolition of slavery, and the free slave would have purchased their own villages, agriculture kept them going. Agriculture was the main activity. And as a government, we recognize that. That is why from 2020, when we got back into government, we have seen the expenditure in the agriculture sector decline from $18 billion in 2015 to $11 billion in 2020. When we got back in our August of 2020, we start out with $18 billion. And today, the budget in the Agriculture Ministry, only the Agriculture Ministry, leaving out the regions and leaving out other things with the big projects. This year, we started $18 billion. Last year was $24 billion. This year is $28 billion. So we're increasing the allocation every year because we recognize that for us to improve and be food secure, we have to develop the agriculture sector.
Relative to the issues raised by residents of the community of Mocha Arcadia, Minister pledged that those issues would be resolved in a week or two. Earlier in the week, Minister Mustafa joined President Dr. Irfan Ali on an impromptu visit to the Meadowbank Wharf for a first-hand look at the conditions there. Fisherfolk using the facilities at that wharf had written to the President complaining about a number of issues facing them, chief among which was lighting, lack of proper sanitary facilities, and the high incidence of crime due to the absence of adequate police presence in the area, especially in the early hours, which is when the business day starts there. At the end of his tour, President Ali made a number of on-the-spot decisions which will see Agriculture Minister Mustafa spearheading a team to ensure that the issues raised by the fisherfolk are addressed immediately. Several agencies under the umbrella of the Ministry of Agriculture Wednesday signed a number of contracts as part of the Ministry's 2022 work program. The contracts signed totaled $605 million and included a contract for the upgrade of road networks in the Takamas Savannas in Region 10, a project which, when completed, will open up some 30,000 acres of savanna lands. Speaking just before the signing of the contracts, Minister Mustafa reminded the contractors that they are partners in government's development agenda and should therefore ensure that they deliver to the letter and intent of the contract they were undertaking.
This afternoon we'll be signing contracts to the value of approximately $600 million. And these are large projects that people who have made people had made representation for. And we are hoping that this project can help us to ensure that we enhance production. That means you will have to do it in a timely manner. We will not extend the contract time, and because also when you have the opportunity days, please ensure you make full use of it, because we are still continue to have the heavy rainfall. But some of the work that are slated here, you can do it in a continuous basis. So, for example, we have supply of pipes, and these will be going to Region 9. Construction of head regulator in Reliance Essequibo, and this was a commitment made by His Excellency when we had the cabinet outreach on the Essequibo coast, and we had a number of those requests, and a number of those projects will be going on there. Almost $200 million will be expended for project there. Then we have the rehabilitation of drainage structure at Dartmouth, Essequibo, construction of access road to Hope High-Level Drainage Canal. That's the Hope canal that we have there. Then we have the construction of the intake structure at Namrick. This here is to bring water from the conservancy to the farmers in Namrick. And we have the extension of the road in the Takamas Savanna. That road will help us to have better access to the corn and soya project. This year we will increase cultivation from 125 acres last year that we cultivated to 3,500 acres this year. This here is another, is about 18 kilometer of road to complement the one that we have awarded last year. And then we have a number of other projects that falls within the GMC, the Hope Coconut Estate, and the Hydromet Service. So these are the projects that we'll be executing this afternoon, signing this afternoon. I hope that the agency heads will ensure that these projects commence on time, so that we can get, as a matter of fact, we are already in the 7th month of the year, and we are hoping to conclude our work program before the year is out.
On Thursday, Minister Mustafa joined his cabinet colleagues and fellow parliamentarians for a sitting of the National Assembly where during an address to the House, he spoke of plans for the establishment of the state-of-the-art packaging facility that will soon be set up at the Albion Estate under quarantine in Berbice. Seeking to set the record straight as regards the massive project, the Agriculture Minister pointed out that it will further drive government's efforts to make sugar sweet again in every sense.
Mr. Speaker, the estimated cost is approximately $1.9 billion for this plant at Albion. And as I said, this will be a modernized plant where we'll be producing and packaging more sugar there, because what we have found out that the packaged sugar is in demand in our country. I said that the money did not use to enhance and expand the plant at Enmore. The money was used for two things, for material costs and employment costs. Right? In the planning and restructuring of Gaisuco, we have decided to move the plant from Enmore to Albion, because Albion is the premier estate in this country and is earmarked to produce more sugar, or the largest amount of sugar in our country. That is the reason we are moving the plant from Enmore to Albion. And as I said, that we have not used a cent to do enhancement work or expansion work on the plant. Thank you.
The minister told the House that the ultra-modern facility, which will be outfitted with high-end equipment, is projected to be 75 by 75 meters with a 10,000-ton storage capacity. The facility will accommodate 5 packaging lines, with each machine being able to produce 25 metric tons of packaged sugar per day, which will provide approximately 7,500 2-kilogram packets of Demerara Gold sugar, or 37,500 packs of sugar per day during the grinding season. Annual output is expected to be almost 1 million packs. On Friday, Minister Mustafa was with his cabinet colleagues and President Dr. Irfan Ali at the official launch of the Building Expo at the Providence Stadium, a well-attended event that ends tonight. On Saturday, Minister Mustafa headlined the much-anticipated annual Fisher Folks Day under the theme Collective Action for a Safe and Resilient Caribbean Fisheries. The event also marked the launch of the International Year of Artisanal Fisheries and Aquaculture under the theme Small in Scale, Big in Value. Minister Mustafa later held meetings with residents of communities in West Berbice, where he stressed the importance of partnerships, that is, government working in partnership with residents and farmers across the country, working together for the development of agriculture in all its forms. His first meeting in West Berbice was with residents of Number 4 Village, where he pledged his government's support for the farmers and residents there, noting that when farmers are provided with the necessary infrastructure and technical support, they are then able to concentrate on being better farmers, and with government's help, able to expand their undertakings. Minister Mustafa told those gathered that agriculture development should not be influenced by politics or political considerations, but powered by a common desire to realize the full wealth-generating potential of agriculture, not only for the farmer, but for the country as a whole.
Not so long ago, a few months back, His Excellency was in this Region 5 and declared Region 5 to be or will be the livestock capital in the Caribbean. All the blackberries that we bring in from Barbados, we'll start the project here. So when they come and talk about how it was selected, the GLDA have already started a program where they are registering farmers who are interested, not only established farmers, but the president have already instructed that 30% of that must go to women and another 20% must go to young people. So we're not leaving out any section of the population. We are ensuring that we have that because Region 5 has the largest areas of land space for us. And right here at MMA, we will ensure that this area here, we develop the black-belly sheep industry here. So you have golden opportunity in Region 5. And as a government, we will be working with every single citizen and every single communities in this country. Because let me tell you what, when it comes to agriculture, we must ensure that every single person who are interested in agriculture, we help them. Because when you produce, when agriculture grows, the country grows. Right? Every single person. When you go to the market, you don't ask the man if your PNC may not buy from you, or if your PVP may not buy from you. As long as the man get good greens and good vegetables, are buying. Right? So we must ensure, and we as a government, we are working every single day. I went to Mocha last week. Last week I went to Mocha, or the same week I went to Mocha. Right? And we working with the group in Mocha. I went to Belladrum. I had a good meeting and working with the group at Belladrum. Here I am today. I am working with you all. So we are, and the regional chairman, I went to Ithaca too. So we are working with every single community because we want the agriculture sector to move forward. And as Minister of Agriculture, I will tell you that I will work with you. I will not come here and make commitment and promises that I can't deliver on. I have a different track record. When I come here, I will tell you what I can do now and not what I will do later. I work with all the agency head, the main agencies. NARI, you have the head here. GLDA have Dr. Walron there. You have the rice man here, Mr. Kuldip from GRDB. And you have all the officers around, all the local officers here. Because I am committed, I am serious that we want to work with you. Our president has instructed that we work with every single community. And he himself have been leading the charge. He himself have been going to different parts of the country. Last Thursday morning, the president led a delegation to the Meadowbank Wharf, 4 o'clock in the morning. I accompanied him. What he wants to do, because 4 o'clock in the morning, the wharves, people start to go there and you see firsthand some of the problems people are faced with. And immediately he set up a task force, instructed me to set up a task force so that we can immediately start to bring some ease to the suffering of the people there. For example, they don't have a washroom. They don't have potable water. They don't have proper lighting facility. Those things immediately I will start to do from the Ministry of Agriculture. But I'm just making this as an example to show you that, look, not only the ministers and officers going about, but we're getting it, the president leading this charge from the top.
Residents of the various Region 5 communities visited were given the opportunity to raise issues of concern to them, with many making a case for material help in expanding their livestock and other agricultural undertakings. The Agriculture Minister has since promised that a team will return to the communities in the new week to identify the various issues that needed to be addressed in the short term. He also promised that an excavator would be made available to deal with the issues relative to drainage in the communities. With regard to issues raised in relation to road repairs, Minister Mustafa promised to engage with his colleague minister with responsibility of roads to visit the communities with a view to assessing what help can be offered to relieve the plight of residents. The West Coast Berbice villagers have since expressed their appreciation to the minister and said that they look forward to working with government to advance the country's agricultural front. In light of recent flooding and the lodging of floodwaters in some communities, the Ministry of Agriculture through the GLDA is warning of the dangers lurking in stagnant floodwaters. Leptospirosis is caused by bacteria that results in severe damage to the liver, kidneys, and other organs of both animals and humans. One risk factor includes walking or playing in floodwaters, especially floodwaters that have become stagnant. Leptospirosis is transmitted through the urine of infected rodents, livestock, and pets. The leptospirobacteria can enter the body of animals and humans through drinking, through cuts in the skin, or through mucous membranes in the eyes, nose, and mouth. Symptoms of leptospirosis in both animals and humans include fever, jaundice, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, loss of appetite, weakness, stiffness, and severe muscle pain. In light of the current rainy season and widespread flooding, livestock and pet owners are advised to implement good agricultural practices and, where possible, have your animals vaccinated against this disease immediately. A message from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority, Ministry of Agriculture.
Region 5, West Berbice, is the largest single contributor to Guyana's rice production annually, with some 45% of national production. Region 5 is also the largest contributor of beef and other meats from animals reared on lands in that region. All lands in Region 5 fall under the purview of the Mahicum-Bicony-Abari Agricultural Development Authority, MMA-ADA, an agency of the Ministry of Agriculture. In recognition of the importance of its role in the production levels of the region, the Ministry of Agriculture has been expending millions on not only rehabilitating the neglected D&I structures and dams, but has been retooling the entity with millions in excavators and other equipment and tools for the work ahead. The completion of Phase 2 begins this year and has been catered for in the 2021 national budget. Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa says the MMA is key to doubling rice production in 5 years. The future for agriculture in Guyana is exciting. Let's all play our part. A message from the MMA Ministry of Agriculture. Farmers and the members of the public in general are being advised that tampering with drainage and irrigation structures in any way is prohibited under the Drainage and Irrigation Act. So too are practices that result in damage to access dams, such as using an inadequate length of tube to irrigate farmlands, resulting in erosion of the earthen dams. Also contrary to the Drainage and Irrigation Act is the practice of erecting structures or planting on government reserves. This will not be condoned. These reserves are to be clear at all times to provide access for the excavation of the channels. Livestock farmers should also be aware that they are liable for any damages caused by their cattle or swine to dams or reserves alongside D&I channels, as is the case when the animals cross these channels. Individuals wishing to erect bridges across D&I structures should first contact the NDIA before doing so. Those found guilty under the Act are liable to fines and imprisonment for up to 3 months. A message from the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, Ministry of Agriculture.
It has certainly been a pleasure bringing you this week's edition of This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture, brought to you every Sunday at this time and streamed live on Facebook. Until next time then, I'm Christopher Holder, urging that you be good to yourselves and to each other.